Joining me now is Democratic National Committee Chairwoman and Florida Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Congresswoman, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
All right, we are right in the middle of what has been an incredible election. How important is tomorrow? What are your thoughts and expectations?
Well, I mean, we're at the point in the primary where, on our side, of course, every contest is important. On the Republican side, last Tuesday really was the hard stop, essentially. They have made Donald Trump all but the presumptive nominee. And, you know, there's a lot of chaos and debate on whether he's hijacked the Republican Party. This was 6 years in the making with the explosion of the Tea Party in 2010, and so they've made a bed and they are lying in it now, and it's the responsibility of the Republican Party, and they need to own it. Some
people would say it is 6 or 7 years in the making because people feel that they've gotten rolled over by President Obama, and that's who created Donald Trump.
Oh, please. The Republicans have been in the majority in either the House or Senate since 2010, and they've declared from day one of his inauguration that they would make him a one-term president, that they would do everything they could to stop him. And so their mantra has been to be an obstacle in the path of progress. And in spite of those obstacles, we've added 20 million people who now have health insurance. We've made 72 months of private sector job growth, cut the deficit.
Well, I can push back on a number of those things. Like, for example, Obamacare, while all of those people are insured, many people, most people, in fact, who will come on this program, if they're managers of business, CEOs, they will say the costs are way out of line. They are actually keeping employees at a certain level so that they don't have to offer
But you know as well as anyone that there were at least 15% increases in premiums every year for these same businesses, and actually in many cases costs have been reduced, and particularly when you're talking about people who didn't have health insurance, who couldn't go to the doctor when they're sick, you've addressed the cost shifting that has taken place so that taxpayers aren't on the hook for the people who used to go to the hospital and had to use the emergency room as their primary access point for health care.
And we know that Senator Clinton says, look, we're not going to take this apart. We want to build on this. Let me ask you about Senator Clinton and Congresswoman Senator Bernie Sanders as well, taking a shot at superdelegates and the process. Listen to this. I want to get your reaction to it, to what Bernie Sanders says.
The whole concept of superdelegates is problematic. But I would say that in states where we have won by 20, 25 points, you know what, I think it might be a good idea for superdelegates to listen to the people in their own state.
Your thoughts on this, Debbie? Because the fact is people are questioning if Bernie Sanders is winning the popular vote in a lot of contests, but Hillary Clinton has all these superdelegates in her pocket. Once again, it feels like she's at an advantage. And sort of creating a process that's just not fair.
Well, let's be clear. Superdelegates, unpledged delegates, don't vote until the convention. So they're in no one's pocket. And there have been many times, particularly in 2008, where they changed their minds throughout the process. The purpose of superdelegates, which, by the way, have never been a determining factor in who our nominee is since they've been in place since 1984, is to make sure that party activists who want to be delegates to the convention don't have to run against much better known and well-established people at the district level. So you want to make sure that our delegations are diverse, and then in addition to that, we want to honor the contributions of longtime party elected officials and leaders so that they can participate as delegates as well.
But let me ask you, this superdelegate controversy is one part of an overall sort of pressure on you. I mean, you've come under fire yourself for a number of reasons this election.
In the job description.
Okay, in the job description, fine. But I mean, for example, the number of debates that you've had, putting the debates on a Saturday night, basically burying them. A number of friends that I have actually who are Democrats say to me, you know what, I wanted a better choice. I don't like Sanders, I don't like Clinton, but they're stuffing this down my throat, Debbie Wasserman Schultz in particular, stuffing Hillary Clinton down our throats as a coronation.
Is there anything more ludicrous than suggesting that the party chair decides who runs for president?
No, but you have to decide on the number of debates, when the debates are, and did you do a good job on that?
I think not only did I do a good job, but then we took another step when the candidates discussed with one another and with us about adding more debates. We've had 8 debates. We've had numerous
But you added debates.
Sure we did, once we had consensus. I can't force the candidates to debate. So we build consensus on the schedule, which is what we did. And by the way, those Saturday nights, Sunday nights, by the way, Sunday night at 9 o'clock is the biggest ratings viewership in prime time. So the Sunday night debate was a ratings bonanza. But The networks, which most of our debates have been on, they determine what night they're willing to give us, and most of them will not give up prime time during the week.
What is your take about the low voter turnout that we're seeing on the Democratic side? Voter turnout's way up on the Republican side.
Well, we don't have low voter turnout. In fact,
it's below where you were under President Obama in the last election.
Because we've had two candidates, and they've had massive chaos on the other side. And
you also had Martin O'Malley, but nobody feels like he got a shot at all.
Well, you know, you have to earn the support that your candidacy motivates people to give you. But we basically had two candidates, and nearly, in many cases, matched the voter turnout of 17 and then 11 and then 8 candidates, now 5 and 4. So we're very proud of the turnout that we've had. And if you look at the contrast between the two sets of candidates, our candidates are talking about how to make people help people reach the middle class. The Republicans are talking about the size of people's hands and their manhood.
Well, to be clear, they're also talking about tax reform. They're talking about national security.
They're talking about going back to their version of the glory days, which plunged us in the George W. Bush administration into the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression.
But if Hillary Clinton wants to raise taxes by $1.1 trillion, you don't think that's going to impact the economy negatively?
Our candidates want to continue to move forward with the policies that President Obama has put in place that allowed us to have the longest sustained period of private sector job growth in history, and to make sure that we can continue to cut the deficit and take a balanced approach to spending cuts and tax reform so that we can make sure everybody pays their fair share, everybody gets a fair shot, and that you can get a good job that pays you well and get a good education that's not going to be, you won't be paying off until you're in your 50s.
Now, this whole notion of paying your fair share, what bothers me about this is that if you're in the highest income bracket, you are paying more than 50%. And for you to just constantly say paying your fair share when you're talking about a portion of people, if it's carried interest that you're talking about, is really inaccurate.
The tax policy of Republicans is to go back to trickle-down economics and to focus, like George W. Bush did, on unpaid-for tax cuts for the wealthiest, most fortunate Americans in 2001 and 2003, which plunged us into the deficit
Debbie,
that we have now.
we're not looking at a vibrant economy right now. The GDP is expected to grow 1% when it comes out on Friday. You think the policies of the Democrats have worked when you've got a GDP that's barely even moving right now?
Vibrancy is relative. A heck of a lot more vibrant than it was when Republicans were in charge. And if you listen to my Republican colleagues in Congress, they think we should turn Medicare into a voucher system, give more tax breaks to the wealthy, and we just believe that there should be some balance. That's where the American people are, and it's why one of our candidates will be the 45th President of the United States.
We got to talk about the FBI investigation around Hillary Clinton. Is there a plan B if, in fact, she does get indicted?
I agree with Secretary Clinton. The suggestions that there is going to be any issue to this at the end of the day are ludicrous, and whoever our nominee is going to be elected because the voters understand that our candidates have their back. Our candidates understand that we need to continue to make the kind of economic progress we've made and not go backwards.